Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Adam, and this is Open Late, and tonight I am opening the Mezco Rumble Society, Mezco 112 Rumble Society. I don't know, lots of words that sort of go along with that. The Gomez Street Edition. Now, I will be perfectly honest. I didn't really think that I would ever have this particular Gomez in my collection. When I started kind of down this Mezco path, there was a few figures that I was, interested in. There's a few figures that I really, really wanted. I would say that as far as collection pieces go, this is about as close to a grail as I sort of have in my sort of what I collect and stuff like that. But I don't like that word because you hear it thrown around a lot by collectors, at least in the last few years, seemingly. Um, and a collector will have multiple grails, and it kind of loses its impact a little bit, I guess. But that's about it. This is about as close as I think I will ever be to that. But at the same time, it's also something that I've really only seriously wanted to add to my collection for a very short period of time. So the first Mezco that I got was in November, of 2025, only 4 months ago. And so, to call something like this a grail is a little bit of a stretch, but it was number one on my list of Mezco figures that I wanted to get. And when it sort of popped up a little bit unexpectedly, from so what happened was, let me backtrack a little bit. Late one evening of 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, I was just scrolling through Instagram as we do, and noticed a post from Kevin over at Toying Around saying that he was thinking of getting rid of a couple Mezco figures he had. And he had I don't know these boxes yet. I haven't been sort of buying Mezco stuff. I haven't been collecting Mezco stuff long enough to know what the Street Edition Gomez box even looked like. Looks like this, by the way. But I noticed that he had a post that said, "Hey, I'm getting rid of a couple of my Mezcos." I was pretty sure this was a Gomez, and he also had the the Gold Skull Ninja. And I said, "Hey, I'm interested in those. What are they?" And he told me what they were, and I said, "Okay, I'm definitely interested. If you want to get me a price and let me know, I'll go from there." And he gave me an exceptionally good price, a price that I couldn't say no to. So here I am now with obviously the Gold Skull Ninja and Street Gomez. So shout out to Kevin from Toying Around for hooking me up. He also I also needed, for Mezco unboxings, I needed a wall XD wall. I had the corner pieces, but I didn't have the wall, so it wasn't big enough for a display. And it's still not quite big enough for a display. I think I still need, another piece somewhere, or I need to figure out how to make this a little bit longer, because you can see that the corner kind of ends right there, and I know that I'm going to need a little bit more space, but that's a me problem for another day. So he had one last wall XD, and then he had Street Gomez and Gold Skull Ninja, and so I grabbed it. Super excited, really good price. He actually threw in a few extras as well, just kind of random Mezco bits and pieces, a couple extra parts, things like that. So, anyways, all that to say, I got Street Gomez. Now, this is a perfect thing to open, I think, on an open late, because this figure came out like 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. This might have been a RumbleCon 2020 figure, but it's new to me, so I'm opening it on a live video. Anyway, let's take a look at the box, and then we'll get this guy out of the box. I'm very, very excited to get this out of the box. Very different packaging from what Mezco is doing now. Very, very simple, very basic packaging. I don't know if this was standard for Mezco at the time because I wasn't collecting Mezco at the time, but it's just sort of a plain black box. This street edition, is like a speech bubble sticker. Like that's just sort of stuck on there, meaning they could do sort of every Mezco figure, in this plain box. They could have done all the Gomez's in the same box, at the time. They could have all done the same, just with a different decal. The Mezco exclusive is a decal as well, not printed on. This is printed on, so the black on black gloss on matte of Gomez is printed. And then on the side, it says Gomez in the black on black. And on the other side, it says Gomez black on black. On the back is a bug, some sort of bug or something, bed bug or something gross like that. And it's not, it's, don't adjust your screens. It has that sort of line, that weird, the lines are sort of separated on the actual print, not just on the TV. It's not like an old tube TV where the lines kind of get all funky and weird. It kind of looks like that in real life. But anyway, and then on the bottom, you get the barcode, you get a little bit of legalese, but that's it. I mean, the box is super straightforward, super basic, pretty boring. Because it's meant to be opened up. This is definitely something that is not meant to stay in box. In-box collectors, need not pay attention because it looks like crap in the box. But once you get it out, there are multiple trays. Let me separate all the trays. There are trays, all of which are kind of like expertly molded so that everything gets stacked nicely and packed up nicely. I'm going to start at the bottom tray and sort of work my way to the top because the top one's the most interesting one, and the bottom one is sort of quick and easy. I'm going to move him over there, put this one over here. And crack into the first one, shall we? I'm gonna get this one open, and then I'm gonna jump on the chat there and say hello to everybody. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just very excited to get this going and get this stuff out of the box. It's Mezco's funny because with all this stuff, at least what I've found from the Mezcos that I've picked up from people, meaning if I'm not the original purchaser and I'm buying them sort of secondhand's the wrong word, but if I'm buying them from people, they tend to have a lot of things that are still in the bag, still in packaging, and that's crazy to me because I open everything and take everything out of the packaging. Oh, these are the little, I think these are the little foam inserts that go in the stereo. Where am I going to put this tray? I don't know. All right, you know what? I'm going to open the second tray quickly, and then oh, what is that? Tiny piece. That is going to get lost instantly if I'm not careful. So many tiny pieces. And what? The heck? I feel like I've already just lost a piece, but I don't know where it went. I'm sure it'll pop up. I'm sure it's not lost, but what the heck? Where did that go? It's like disappeared. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Well, let me. Oh, there it is. I found it. It hadn't left my desk because it hadn't made a noise. The butt of this has fallen off. I did not know that came off. Anyway, very quickly, let me say hello. What's going on, Larry? Good to have you, buddy. Die Hard 3.75 says good evening. And no chewing is here. What's going on, Chewy? Good to have you, buddy. He said, so jelly. I hope they put out another Street Gomez. Yeah, so do I. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I was, I was happy to just sort of wait for another Gomez to come up. I was sort of happy enough to just be a patient collector and just jump on the next Gomez that Mezco did. But as I said, the price, like basically the price for, so as I said, I got Street Edition Gomez and the Gold Skull, House of the Golden Skulls, Gold Skull Ninja for less than what I would pay to have ordered them directly from Mezco. So for anybody that follows Mezco, you know that this is not a figure that's currently being sold at or below retail. So yeah, I couldn't say no. And Tui says, I'm this way, I put premium back in the box. That's fair. I'm not, I'm certainly not criticizing it. It's it definitely it definitely keeps everything safe. But it takes up a lot of space, and I don't have a lot of space. And I also, do tend to keep everything out because I play with everything. All my Mezco stuff is just on my desk. It hasn't found a home beyond my desk yet. All right. Do I open Gomez or do I go over the accessories first? I think we'll go over the accessories first, and then I will pop Gomez out. And yeah, let's do it that way. Let's do it that way. Starting off with the less than exciting stuff. You get the figure stand with the Gomez head on there. Still has the plastic, of course, in proper collector fashion. The plastic is still on there. This just has, they all just come this way. There's a little like film that's on them. And I've left all mine on there, but that's about as close as I get to, not unboxing them. You can see my ring light. It's nice glossy over a matte black base. But it's a figure stand. Like, it's not that exciting. It's gonna go in the corner. Will it stay in the corner? No, just lean. I'll just lean. The flight stand will plug into the base as well, if you want it to. I don't use them very often because I don't do a lot of full sort of setups like that, but I should. I mean, I have all the stands. You get a 112 Ziploc bag. I love these. This is part of the reason that I'm okay taking them all out, because I actually put all the small parts in here for each of the characters so that I hopefully, theoretically, don't lose anything. I'll just tuck that over there as well. We get some decals. We get a poster, like just a teeny tiny poster that you can put up in your diorama or what have you. We get a scarf. So this is just a wired scarf that you can kind of do whatever you want with. There's wire on the top, not on the bottom, or vice versa. I guess it's either or, whichever you want to call it. But fully wired, so you kind of wrap it however you like, pose it however you like, and throw it on your figure. As far as the other soft goods, we get a really cool little military surplus kind of looking jacket with plenty of cut and sew details on it. This is probably the way I'm gonna display my Gomez, with this and the scarf. Functioning zippers, which is wild at a teeny tiny scale like this. The zippers are a bit of a pain in the butt, but they do work. They are functional. So no wire in this. No, so this just sort of sits, how it would be on the figure, and you can't pose it, but still very, very cool. We get a little sort of windbreaker, a little bit longer type jacket. Now this does have some wire in it, in the hood, so you can sort of pose the hood if you want to. And but yeah, just again, very cool. Pockets aren't functioning. The pockets on Senor Blanco's coat are functioning, which is absolutely wild. But it also sort of indicates, how far the Mezco soft goods, I think, have come in the last few years. These are amazing. These are, like I said, amazing, amazing cut and sew pieces, but they don't have the same level of, posability and stuff as some of the newer stuff. What next? Well, let's take a look at the boombox. I think this boombox has a name, but I can't remember what it is. But I think it's like a character. I don't have any of the comic books. I'm gonna try to find, see if there's anywhere online that I can read the comic books, because I don't have any, and I kind of want to know more about the lore. But yeah, very, very cool. Lots of detail. And this actually opens up somehow. Where does it open up? How does it open up? Is there a trick? Is there something I am missing? I don't want to break it. I don't want to force it open. I know that it opens. Anybody that has these, have you opened it? Do I just pop it open? Am I just I feel like it just pops open. But like I said, I don't want to, like, it looks like this is the hinge, and that this is, there's like a seam obviously right there. And I feel like it's going to be one of those things where, like, once I figure out how to do it, it's just going to be obvious. Oh, yeah, it's pretty obvious. This hinge kind of moves up and down. And if you push it down, kind of push the face down a little bit, it opens right up. Easy. Easy. Now, why am I opening that? Well, let me adjust this ever so slightly and show you. These inserts that I was talking about, these inserts go in here, and they are a little bit different. There's two different inserts. and each insert sort of offers you a different sort of combination of things that you can load into Boom Boom, the boom box. There it is. Hey, Terrence, what's going on, buddy? Good to have you. So yeah, you can load up Boom Boom with different loadouts, depending on sort of which accessories you want to put in there. Now, I think this one is for the sniper rifle, which I think is probably the way I'm gonna go, and then this one would be for the. Are they both for that? I don't know. I'll have to look at the pictures and sort of go over that, but I'm definitely gonna put some in there because I can. I think that's this is where the people that sort of keep everything in the box. I feel like these are the things that like Kevin's had this for years and he never opened these. Like these are still sealed in the plastic bags. Which is absolutely bananas to me. That's just crazy to think that it never, got opened and played with. Anyway, what can you put in those in Boom Boom? Well, let's take a look. We've got these two sort of grenade type canister things. You've got this. I guess it's got to be this, right? It's got to be this rifle. But this is a sort of sniper type rifle, but this sort of disassembles. So allow me to. That's why that comes off, obviously. The magazine will come out. What comes next? This is gonna split in two. Does the sight come off? It does. And then I'm willing to bet that this. Oh, I see. That pulls apart. And you actually get, that makes sense. I couldn't figure that out at first looking at it. So that comes off. And there's a shorter version. I don't know how to show these. They're so small. But you sort of have the long muzzle. Or sorry, I guess the long barrel with the sort of silencer on the end. Or suppressor. And then the short barrel with the same length of suppressor. There you go. That's a better way to sort of see it. So yeah, very, very cool. And I think you can break that down, put it in Boom Boom, which is very, very cool. Larry, gonna catch the replay in the morning. Fair, man. That's fair. You're on the East Coast, or thereabouts. You're on the East Coast as far as I'm concerned. So have a great night. Terrence says, I find handling Mezco weapons anxiety causing. Yeah, to some extent, I suppose. But at the same time, it's just toys. I mean, thankfully, I'm not playing outside. I'm not playing over carpet. I specifically have hardwood in my office so that things don't just disappear to nowhere. I can always find them. I have so far not lost anything in here, or at least not lost anything that I haven't been able to later recover. We get a backpack, a sufficiently street looking backpack with a bunch of pockets. Pockets are stitched shut, but I think they're functional. So if you want to sort of tear open that stitch, you can do that and it will be functional. It does have Velcro on here. There's sort of a Velcro strap, and then it does open up. The hatch opens up and it's got foam in it. So Mezco does this. interesting thing with sort of all their bags, so that you get a foam piece in there. So if you don't want to fill it up with anything, it'll still hold its shape. So it'll still sort of hold the shape of the backpack, but you can also pop that out and just sort of fill it full of stuff if you like. And then there's sort of an opening slot on the side there, which I think you could put this in if you wanted to, if you were so inclined to do it that way. Which I'll come back to this in a moment. But you could load this on the side, I suppose, if you wanted to. It does have its own strap, and this can sort of go around, the chest of the figure if you'd rather do it that way. And this is, of course, to put your very, very cool green bladed sword in. So there you go. That's the sheath for this little kind of katana type sword, which initially I kind of thought was a little bit weird. I thought the detail work on it and just sort of the design in general was a little bit weird. But then I realized that Gomez is a bug, and he's got this katana that has sort of like a stinger on it. So a very bug-like sword in a lot of respects. So it kind of fits. It fits Gomez. It's an appropriate sword for a bug, for an ant man of some sort. A couple of blast effects. So you get these icy rocket pop looking blast effects, and this one has a blue bullet painted on the end. And the blue bullet, works with with my least favorite. Oh, I forgot to mention there's an extra magazine as well to go with the rifle. We've got this noisy cricket of a little pistol here in sort of a red, white, and blue motif, which is not my favorite. But I don't know how much use I'm going to get out of that. That might just go in the backpack and kind of never be seen again, to be totally honest. And then this little accessory, which is tiny accessory, and I'm not 100% certain what it is. I'm guessing that it's meant to be some sort of little watch, but so small. And I think that's going to go on Gomez so that it doesn't get lost, because otherwise that piece will get lost. Ay. That's as bad as the little cigarettes that came with the Decapod gang. That's worse, actually. That's a worse piece than those cigarettes. Those cigarettes are small, but they're more significant than that is. Last accessory before I get to that tray, you of course get the little hoverboard. Now this little hoverboard comes in a variety of different decos depending on the Gomez that you have gotten. And coming back to the backpack, as I said I would, this actually fits in here just like so he can actually carry that on his backpack. When you're loading out the character, if you don't want him on the hoverboard, he can just carry it around with him, which is very, very cool. Just a really cool detail. I think this is kind of like why I'm sort of very quickly becoming like obsessed, admittedly, with Mezco stuff, is that so many of these little details are the details that 10-year-old me would have been obsessive about. The fact that the backpack attaches to the fact that the hoverboard attaches to the backpack, the fact that you get a functioning sheath with a functioning buckle for your little sword, the fact that the rifle is modular and you can take it all apart. I had GI Joes that had that functionality, and they were like my favorite thing. I'm thinking of Bullhorn. Like, he had a backpack that came with the ability to kind of break down his rifle, and as a kid I just thought that was so cool, and just so much fun. Play value, you can call it play value, I guess, I just loved kind of pulling things apart and putting them away and kind of like gearing up characters and doing all that kind of stuff. And Mezco does that on an adult level, like this isn't like, oh, the gun's two pieces. It's like this thing is what is it, like six pieces. But you also get multiple soft goods, and you get stuff that's wired, and you can load the boombox into different configurations and all that kind of stuff. It's just it's crazy, man. This I know that Mezco has the little disclaimer that says, these aren't toys, these are collectibles for adults or whatever. But man, am I having fun playing with these not toys. All right, a bunch of extra heads, which I'm super, super excited about. I love that as well. There's Gomez. I'll get him out, set him to the side. A bunch of extra hands. Did I get them all? Yes, I did. Not leaving anything in the tray. All right. That's all. The tray's emptied. Let's take a look at the hands, shall we? Let me see if there's anything out of the ordinary. Mezco is funny because everything has gloved hands, and I think every figure comes with the same hands, or thereabouts. Is there anything out of the ordinary in here? Let me see. He's got fists. He's got open hands. He's got... I'm just trying to find matches here. Trigger hand as well as a C grip hand. The figure itself has C grip-ish hands. Clearly, those are probably not the ones that came on Gomez in the box, but a couple other sort of grip hands. That's sort of like the more closed grip hand. That one's great for like the sword. We get this kind of gripping hand, which I'm sure holds some accessory, better than others. That's the thing, is like they seem to have like molded a lot of these hands specifically to hold specific things, like this one, which will probably fit this very nicely. Whereas that small C grip hand won't hold that canister very well. So Mezco does a really good job, again, of just sort of making sure that you can play with these really, really well. We get a variety of sort of finger hands. So you get a pointing hand or a number one hand. We get two fingers. I also use this one for sort of like pushing things. Like when I'm playing with them and the figure needs to like push something. So whether it's Senior Blanco like pushing the brim of his hat up, or somebody sort of pushing an envelope across the table, I go for the two finger hand. And then we get another number one hand, which is a little bit different, a little bit different digit being used to express the number one. But there you go. Alternate heads. We get a pink skull. So anybody that's collecting Mezco, pink skulls kind of recurring. Yeah, there is sort of pink skulled characters. Then we get an alternate green head. So that's got a nice black wash over it. Metallic, sort of reflective green. That looks really, really cool. So if you want multiple bug characters, you can alternate heads and have sort of different looks. This one I really, really love. This is more of a very specific sort of looking ant head in a David Bowie type deco, which I think is really, really cool, really, really weird. I don't know what I would use this one for, although it may end up on the Gold Skull Ninja, because I feel like I want this out on display. I think that's a very, very cool piece. So I'm glad that they included that in there for sure. But yeah, 3 alternate heads. And then, of course, the Gomez head with his little mandible mouth and his little antenna, which are articulated on a little ball joint. So you can kind of rotate them and pose them and do what you want with them because it's a toy and it's yours. So once it's yours, you do whatever you want. His neck is crooked, so I gotta adjust that because it'll drive me crazy if I don't. There you go. But he's got his soft goods stripy shirt on. The base body is a very nicely articulated sort of brown body to match the rest of the head and the neck there. The belt, they do a really good job with the belt. His jeans, which are engineered quite well. You've got sort of the pockets, you've got the knees. Very, very cool sneakers. He's got his Converse sneakers on, but they're not Converse, of course. They're Mezverse, I guess, or whatever. There's a bunch of alternate sneakers. I think across the brand, there's different sneakers. I do like the Converse sort of look. Just keep it simple, keep it classic. But there is the basic sort of Mezco. Really, what the street edition gets, that's different than the other Gomez figures is the soft goods, the options for the soft goods. So like I said, the windbreaker, the army surplus jacket, the scarf, the backpack, all that kind of stuff. Just I don't know what it is about this specific Gomez that I was so excited about. But he doesn't disappoint. It's a really, really cool looking figure. And they pose really nicely. If you've never had a Mezco figure in hand, you admittedly do have to get used to the soft goods a little bit because they kind of they push back more than your average just plastic figure. There's a little bit of a learning curve to sort of getting things where you want them without breaking it, right? Obviously with the soft goods, and he's not too bad. He's just got a single layer of fabric over the joints. So he is able to just about kick his butt, and he's definitely got the ability to sort of fold his arm right up. Little bit of a butterfly joint in there, not much, but you can feel it. You can definitely feel it in there. Double jointed knees, double jointed elbows, obviously rotation. The ball joint for the hand and the rotation. So there's like a pinned wrist in there as well. So you get plenty of articulation at the wrist. The wrists and the hand can kind of go wherever you want them to. They move really, really well. I'm not going to sort of bore you with me sort of sitting here playing with Gomez, showing you all the articulation. But they've got all the articulation you could want. If you've never had one of these in hand, find someone that has one and ask if you can play with it. Because as soon as you sort of play with the soft goods and play with all the accessories and sort of check the articulation, I think you're probably going to want one for yourself. But all the sneakers are molded on the bottom too. Very, very cool. I'm going to get his coat on and maybe get him a little bit geared up. And then I'm probably going to call it an evening. So getting the coats on isn't super difficult. It does require, a little bit of care and a little bit of patience. But I do find that, having neighbors that were girls and, having a younger sister, I've dressed enough Barbies in my life that I don't really struggle with this. The the trick is getting it up and over the shoulder before you try to move the shoulder. Other than that, pretty straightforward stuff. They do fit tight. They are snug. But like I said, once you sort of get the hang of getting it where you need it, there's not much to it. Nothing to be scared of, Terrence. I know that you've got a few Mezcos, so I know that you've probably done this all before. But I don't know. I don't find it that daunting a task. I don't find it too worrying. I'm more worried that that I'm going to drop something, or that I'm not going to do these figures justice, that I'm not going to sort of play with them enough, that I'm not going to sort of pose them well enough to justify me owning them. But what's next? Do I want to put the backpack on? Do I want to put will the backpack work with the sword? I think sword, then backpack. Okay, I want it that way. Yeah. Oh, it's got a buckle. What am I thinking? I don't have to. So these buckles are functioning buckles. So that means I should be able to just squeeze it and pop it open. Easier said than done, but there it is. Like so. Now, will the backpack? I don't think the backpack's going to be quite so easy. I think the backpack has to go on like the coat did. Probably should have put them on at the same time. Whoops. Oh, but it's an elastic strap. Okay, that's good. That's good. That'll make it easier. Much easier. Is this going to be too much? This might just be too cluttered. Yeah, I don't love it with this much stuff. The backpack may come off sooner rather than later. But for now, it's on there. Oh, I nearly forgot. I'll come back to my thought. Terrence says, I'm a big Doc Nocturnal fan. Yes, that Doc Nocturnal version 2, like the one that came out a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point, I want to pick up. I got the holiday edition Doc Nocturnal, and now I want that one, which is kind of like the normal version, I guess, if you want to call it that. That blacked out one that came out, a month ago. I missed, but when I say that I missed it, I kind of passed on it. I kind of, decided I didn't need it. I got the Decapod Gang, but I think Doc Nocturnal is on my list. Now that I have what I have, I still want to get Bartholomew Vex, the Junkyard guy. I want to pick up. Like, there's a few more that I want, and then if I see them at conventions and stuff like that, there's a few more that I would pick up. So, Terrence says, I sadly snapped a weapon in half by accident. It happens. They're not the hardiest. They're not the hardiest of pieces. So I could see that. I mean, it's not, it wouldn't be hard to do. I get that. I totally get that. I just realized what this is for. This would be to hold the gun. So I think I'm actually no, I could do more of an expressive hand. Pop that hand on there. I'm gonna pop the other. Well, I guess the most expressive hand is probably that number 1 hand, but I'm gonna just put this one on for now. I'm not gonna put anything in his hands just yet. But I did want to show one thing. This is magnetic. Which I didn't know about until I was watching somebody else's review while I was waiting for my figure to arrive. So you get them on the hoverboard. I thought it was weird. I thought it was weird that the hoverboard didn't have any pegs or anything like that, but he doesn't need pegs because there are magnets in the feet and in the hoverboard. So there you go. You can have your Gomez skateboarding very easily. I mean, obviously you need bent legs to skateboard, so I'm just going to adjust him to be a little bit more. There you go. There's Gomez. Posed up, a little bit geared up. Not a lot geared up, a little bit geared up. I'll skip the scarf for now. But I think the scarf will probably end up on him. Very, very cool. Let me tighten this up. Very cool release, very cool figure. I am very, very excited that it is in my collection. I'm probably going to play with it for the next couple of hours. Because that's what I do. I already did all my work. I already replied to all the emails that I needed to for the night and pushed through all the orders. So don't worry, I'm not neglecting my duties by playing with my toys. Let's see. Terrence says, I need smaller fingers. I don't think my fingers are particularly small. And they're shaky. So I don't have the best hands for being a collector, but life goes on. Terrence says, last year I was at MegaCon Orlando and they had a Mezco booth, and that is kind of an action figure Valhalla type experience. They ruin your ability to look at Marvel Legends D&D figures ever again. Yeah, no. I will say this. I hadn't ever seen a Mezco booth until I was at San Diego Comic-Con last year. And on a separate note, Nightcrawler is my favorite Marvel character. He's my favorite X-Man, and the X-Men are my favorite, team. And the X-Men is like the only kind of big brand. Are Marvel and DC brands? What comic publishers? That's the word that I'm looking for. X-Men books are the only books from the big publishers that I still read. Uncanny Spider-Man being one that I read recently that was fantastic, had Nightcrawler in it. There's been a bunch of really, really good Nightcrawler storylines in the last few years. For anybody that reads the X-Men stuff still, that Nightcrawler featured very heavily in the Krakoa stuff, and I think it was justified because I think there was a lot of Jonathan Hickman was writing X-Men and he was getting very sort of philosophical about mutants and who the X-Men were and what they were and all that kind of stuff, and I absolutely loved it. And I'm still reading the X-Men stuff even though Jonathan Hickman's gone, but it's not the same. I think the Jonathan Hickman stuff might be right up there with my favorite X-Men stuff forever at this point. So Nightcrawler is my favorite character. I see the Mezco booth. I see all their DC characters and I see all their Marvel characters that they've done so far. And I'm like, okay, these are all pretty cool. The only figure at the Mezco booth that I took a picture of, because I didn't have any Mezco figures at that point, and I sort of intentionally was staying away from them. The only picture that I took of the Mezco booth was of the Nightcrawler prototype that they had there, and I was really excited about it. Now, fast forward to today, Nightcrawler is out. He's up for pre-order, and I don't need him. Ultimately, I'm okay without I'm okay without having that Nightcrawler because I have a few other Nightcrawlers and because I have the character covered with Marvel Legends. So as much as like I agree with you, Terrence, that like it's hard to look at, you know, a Marvel Legends and sort of put it next to that Mezco figure and say like, you know, objectively one of them is of a higher quality. There's still a part of me that kind of goes, but you know, for $25, you know, I'm not going to worry about it as much. So I still err on the side of Marvel Legends. I don't do DC stuff. I'm curious what Mattel is going to do with DC because I'm kind of curious if I will finally be able to pick. I have for years now. I've sort of had the idea that I would like to get, you know, some DC representation in my collection. As of right now, I have one Mattel, old Mattel, Batman, but I don't have a Superman. I don't have a Wonder Woman. I don't have a Flash. I don't have a Green Lantern. So I'm thinking there's room in my collection for sort of the Justice League, but I just don't know which form. The McFarlane stuff really doesn't do it for me. Some of the older Mattel stuff is okay, but I'm not going to go hunting for that stuff. It also feels dated and it feels sort of its time. So I'm very curious to see what Mattel does with their new collector line. That may be where I go with that stuff. But then again, kind of like the idea of getting like a golden age Batman and a golden age Superman. And if I was going to do that, I'm kind of looking at Mezco. So I don't know. Like, yeah, there's part of me that kind of agrees that, you know, once you see the Mezco versions of these, it's hard to sort of, you know, look at the Hasbros and the Mattels. But at the same time, it's like, you know, toys. Allison Troy, you know, retro toy princess Allison Troy, it loves her toys to look like toys, and there's still a part of me that sort of has that too, where when they get too much, like these are still very obviously, you know, wild. This is very much a toy for an adult, as I said, you know, when I was talking about this guy. Which is why I think for me, like the Rumble Society stuff, the original IP stuff for Mezco, is where I'm good with Mezco. Whereas when I'm talking about, you know, X-Men and I'm talking about Batman and I'm talking about Superman, I kind of still want them to feel like toys and look like toys because there's more nostalgia in that than there is in a little lifelike realistic statue that poses perfectly and you know, I can't see the joints and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. There's a place for all of it, I think. Terrence says, speaking of hardy weapons, I recently got a Red Dead Redemption figure from 5K. His weapons and horse looked beautiful, but they were metal. Didn't expect that. Oh, that's wild. That's cool. Sounds inexpensive. Chewy says, I didn't know about the magnets. Well, Chewy, maybe you need to play with your toys more. Terrence says, love the outfits. Yeah, I mean, this is like, that's the other thing, right? For boys that grew up with sisters, for boys that sort of, you know, may have been told, you know, don't play with the dolls, play with the action figures. These have a certain allure to them where, you know, you're kind of like, these are kind of in dull territory. I'm not gonna lie. Terrence says, I don't like the way the shoulder costume thing looks on Nightcrawler, but I imagine it's a hard shape style to nail. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like the shoulder thing. I think with Mezco too, because it's like soft goods on there, that's where I think it's the difficult part. They did that Wolverine that has like the pads on his shoulders, and it's clumsy and it sort of interrupts the outfit, and I don't know. Paul Neary, Alan Davis, Nightcrawler from Excalibur. Yes, I mean that's that feels like the purest kind of Nightcrawler for sure. Like, but at the same time, and maybe I haven't read enough of it, or I haven't read it enough recently. Nightcrawler for me, part of what I love about Nightcrawler, or maybe the main thing that I like about Nightcrawler, the main thing that sort of draws me into that character, is his character, and it is his sort of struggle with his personal kind of religious convictions, and the depth that Nightcrawler has as a result of that stuff. There's a lot of characters that are just sort of a surface level thing, but Nightcrawler really isn't that. And Nightcrawler, for me, when he gets into those storylines that that really are the the soap opera stuff, really, on some level, but like the really deep philosophical, the philosophical kind of moral and ethical, you know internal struggle that he has, to me, is a very relatable thing, and it's definitely something that I love. Not to mention, his ability is very cool, and he's like he's kind of like, in a weird way, and I hate to say it because he's my favorite character, but there's a vulnerability to Nightcrawler, because while he's strong and agile, he's not the strongest, and so he has to use kind of he has to be more clever than the people that he's fighting most of the time. So, anyways. Terrence says, if I had unlimited funds, I'd chase down every pulp style character Mezco has made. Love the fedora trench coat types. Yes, yeah, if money wasn't an option, I'd be all over the place. Terrence says, need a Robin. I love toys, but I love seeing how far the industry can push the limits of innovation. Yes, exactly. And that's kind of where I'm at with these. And that's kind of why the Rumble Society stuff is my favorite of their stuff, because it's not, I'm not going to get, there's no Hasbro Gomez, right? I don't need to go like, oh, well, which Gomez do I need? Which Atticus Doom do I need? You get the Mezco one and you're done. It's that simple. So getting an IP that is only ever going to be done by them kind of makes practical sense. It allows me to have sort of rules about what Mezco I buy. That I don't just try to buy all of them. We all got old enough that now we want to dress up our dolls. Yeah, exactly. I think it's odd that we haven't seen enough Nightcrawler Daredevil crossover, considering they're shared Catholic guilt and conflict. Yeah, you know what I think it might be, honestly, from a sort of creative perspective, like in terms of like the writers and artist perspective, I think they're almost too similar. The best team ups are ones that don't fit very well, in a sense, if that makes sense. Because put those two guys next to each other, their skill sets are fairly similar. With the exception of teleportation, I think you're looking at two very similar types of characters. Agile melee fighters that live in the shadows. I think they're too close together. I think that's why, maybe we haven't seen anything like that. But Chewy, to be fair, I don't own a Gomez to know about the magnets. That is fair, I suppose. I didn't realize that there's quite a few Mezco figures actually have magnets, and I think it's a very clever way to kind of get to kind of get some like cool functionality in without having, the big obvious pegs. Which I got nothing against sort of putting a peg on a skateboard so that your figure can stand on it, but at the same time, they don't look great. Anyway, there's a bunch of hands. There's the gun and a bunch of pieces. I don't know. We're at an hour. I might wrap it up. Might call it a night. Because it's my channel and I can do what I want. Anyways, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for watching. If you're watching, on the replay, thank you. I'm always shocked by how many people come and hang out and how many people watch my videos, because it's flattering, and I've just crossed sort of the 1,000 subscriber threshold. I'm still kind of blown away and humbled that anybody cares enough to be here, let alone come back. So thank you guys. I appreciate it so much. Till next time. Bye-bye.